The market simply cares about you being able to solve their problems, making it easier, more efficient, with better service. They will pay you for it.
This is Derek Moneyberg. Today I get to chat with Patrick Bet-David. He's invited me into his bank vault, which is a pretty damn cool studio to have. That is literally an old bank building.
Yeah, this was literally a bank vault. And it's a bank vault turned into a podcast set.
That's pretty cool. Mine's in a penthouse, and I have amazing views, but I got to say that the vault is a special spot. So I'm excited to
Penthouse is also cool as well.
View's pretty good. Security maybe even better.
Chicago.
Here. Yeah, Chicago. You should live in a vault. It's good to have good security.
Chicago's got some real nice penthouses there.
My audience, I think the thing that you and I would uniquely chat with them that they'd find valuable is some of the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, and the relationship between maybe using entrepreneurship to advance your current career if you don't have your own business yet. Because people say that's their excuse. Well, I don't have my own business yet, Derek. But Derek, I don't run my own business yet. Well, yeah, but entrepreneurship applies to your career as well. That you can engage in a lot of entrepreneurial behaviors to get a raise, to get a promotion, to get a fat ass bonus check, or to otherwise enhance your life. And that might help that person then to either transition, that they're less reliant on their career and having other income streams through investments, or moving away from a career and moving into being a full-time entrepreneur. So I know you lived your life that way, and I lived my life that way, and it might be a unique overlap that the audience could find very valuable. When did you start your path of entrepreneurship, or what were your early thoughts about that?
I lived in Iran 10 years. We escaped 6 weeks after Khomeini died. Lived in Germany at a refugee camp for a year and a half. Super Nintendo 2 was coming. I think Super Mario Brothers 2 was coming out. The yellow cover is 2. I think yellow is 2. I think Super Mario Brothers 2 is coming out. And there was a guy on our campus his name was Jan Staff, who had a beautiful sister that I liked spending time with, Katarina. And he liked video games. I liked the sister. So I wanted to figure out a way how to come up with 249 marks. We don't have a lot of money. My parents got a divorce. And I went out to a local swimming pool in Germany. They love drinking beer. I mean, it was just like they'd have beer with their cereal if they could. I mean, beer is nothing to them. They don't nurse their babies with milk. They nurse them with beer. So I go to the swimming pool, and I go to the owner. I'm like, listen, there's beer bottles everywhere. What are you going to do with this? He says, I'd like to get it cleaned up. I said, I'll help you out. I said, how much will you give me per beer bottle I clean up with? He gave me 5 cents per. I needed 5,000 bottles to get my 249 marks so I can go to Kaufhof and buy the Super Mario Brothers 2, the Super Nintendo system that was coming out. 30 days later, I got the money, went to Kaufhof, I bought the Super Mario Brothers, came back to the refugee camp, introduced it to everybody. Everybody started playing, and I went off with Katarina. That was literally the story. And in that moment, I realized anything you want to do money-wise, you have to figure out a way to exchange service for money, and whoever can scale that makes the most. And if you can deliver on your promises, the market keeps coming back to you. And my entrepreneurship venture started at 10 years old.
I made my first entrepreneurial dollar, I was 7, and it was, walking dogs, cutting grass, shoveling snow, raking leaves, painting the neighbor's fence like Huckleberry Finn, build a compost bin in the neighbor's backyard, etc. All these little odds and ends, anything, chop some firewood, anything. I didn't swap video game. I didn't swap entertainment for girl. That didn't come till later. But that's an amazing story as well. And something you said, I think that we bring up again is there's a mysticism to some people that where do I start? What do I do? And you said it very clearly, is that the best way to get what you want in life is to deserve it, is Charlie Munger's famous saying. And I always thought to myself, well, whatever you want, if you could add even more value to someone else, if you could provide a consumer surplus so they're delighted, people are happy to pay you for this. There's nothing mystical or magical about it. It's where could you find somebody who has some suffering, some struggle, a suboptimal situation? If you can make their life better, you could capture some of the value created. How do you think about that?
It's true. I mean, the biggest challenge is that many times you think all the industries are done with innovation, and somebody comes out who's a former employee at Pepsi, somebody comes out who's a former employee at Ford or GM or Tesla or Microsoft or Facebook or MySpace or Friendster that says, I don't know, I just think we can do it better. What if ... somebody that comes up who we used to work at Cisco, and he says, I think we need to do our, online group meetings in a different way. And Cisco says, I think it's a bad idea. The guy leaves and starts a company called Zoom. Now he's worth, 10, 12 billion dollars because he felt he could do it better. The market is always going to benefit those who find ways to make anything that's there better or come up with something new that nobody else is doing. So look at every industry. For example, let's just say you're a realtor. And as a realtor, your problem as a realtor is, hey, we're going in an era where clients don't want to go see you face to face, right? They don't want you to come to your house, or they don't want to go and be around a lot of people, whatever, because of COVID, okay? What's your format going to be? Are you going to create I can do it with a drone experience where this person can go in this room and I can commentate and I can explain to them. So maybe instead of having a client sitting in the back seat and the decision maker sitting here, and we spend an afternoon together, we can look at 4 homes. I can take the client through 15 homes in a span of an hour or 2 hours. This is how I'm going to do a better job. I save them money. They stay home. They get this experience. I just need them in front of a Zoom. Here's how we're going to be doing it. Great. Everything's about somebody figuring out a way to do it better. If you're able to do that, eventually the market's going to favor you. And if you're solving a bigger problem, you make more money. If it's a smaller problem, you make less money. It's the most honest way of system that could be designed economically, and that capitalism system, anybody can benefit. It doesn't matter what nationality you are, how old you are, what degree you got, where you come from. Nobody cares who your parents were, where you lived, how tall you are, how short you are, how your diet is, whether you're a Christian, Scientology, LDS. Nobody cares. The market simply cares about you being able to solve their problems, making it easier, more efficient, with better service. They will pay you for it.
A point you touched on there that I agree with everything you said about the market, but a point you touched on there is that capitalism is the least racist system in the damn world. That not only does trade between people solve problems here on Earth, that any countries or cultures that trade a lot together, they tend to get along. Both of their lives are enhanced, or the cultures of both countries are enhanced. And this narrative that capitalism is bad or something is crazed. I think it would be delightful if you had like a Martian or a sea creature you could do business. How happy would you be if there was a sea creature that had access to some volcanic vent where there's diamonds nearby, and he'd capture a few diamonds in his mouth and bring them up to you to trade for breadcrumbs? Wouldn't you love that creature? Would you be deeply concerned about his health and well-being?
You'd probably protect it.
I'd do anything you could to save that damn fish.
Yeah, probably. Yes, you would definitely protect it. So, for example, you tell that story. Coca-Cola. Everybody bashes Coca-Cola. One day I'm sitting watching a commercial, and the commercial says, we spend $2.3 billion protecting water. I'm like, oh, wow, what a great charity. And we spend this much money and technology to make sure, because the number one problem in the world is water. Here's what's happening to water supply. Here's what's happening here with this. Here's what's happening with that. Here's what's happening with this. And by the end of it, it says Coca-Cola. So I sat there and I said, all these people that trash Coca-Cola, does Coca-Cola exist without water? No. Coca-Cola has to fix the water problem, or else they're out of business. So this the part where what you're talking about is, even if you paint the picture of the capitalist being the greedy guy that all he cares about is money and the nice cars and all this other stuff. Well, that capitalist who you think is fully greedy, he also has to take care of the world, because if he doesn't, his business is eventually going to flop. So there's a social component to capitalism as well. The best capitalists are probably the most social guys out there, because they have to sit there and say, I better take care of this planet, or else I'm not going to continue making this kind of money.
A good entrepreneur would find a way to be a good custodian of resources and profit from it, obviously, in the process. There's nothing magical or mystical to that. It just makes a lot of sense. What are your thoughts? I have large social media followings. You do too. I get these comments sometimes, or this general ethos of a subset of people that they want to get rich quick. They think that something fantastic is going to happen overnight with little or no effort on their part. Whatever the new trend is. And then there's some marketers that'll jump on that and endorse the most absurd thoughts in economics that a bunch of losers are going to get undeserved things overnight. Have you ever seen anybody have significant outcomes without making a significant effort? I've never seen this.
I have. There are some people that are going to get lucky, but it's such a small percentage of people. Like there's a couple guys that bought Bitcoin when it was nothing, and now they're worth $180 million. I know a couple guys, lazy, not hardworking, nothing, that less than $1,000 put money into Bitcoin when it was pennies on a dollar. Now the guy's worth $180 million. So, but what is that? That's 1 out of 330 million. You understand what I'm saying? Like the percentage is so minuscule for a person to get lucky at that level. What I bank on is a proven formula that produces results. I want that. When I was a salesperson, one of the sales managers said, listen, because one guy, made $28,000 in a month. Next month, he made $1,900. And the sales manager said, well, that's the world of sales. One month you have a big month, and sometimes you're going to have bad months. And this is just a journey and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I buy into that. I want to figure out a way. If I make $28,000 and I make $1,900 the next month, that's kind of like you only made $15,000 in 2 months. I don't like that. So I look for proven systems to build a business that generates revenue without it being too, up and down, up and down, up and down. I want a predictable, proven income. So now if you're banking on that, luck is the last thing you rely on. It doesn't become the first thing you rely on. You rely on your work ethic. You rely on the fact that you're constantly going to be a curious person, improving and figuring out better ways to do things. You rely on your strategies, and you rely on lasting. There's nothing more intimidating to a competitor who's willing to outlast you. You and I can get into a fist fight. I may hit harder than you. You may hit harder than me. But if I'm going to go 30 minutes and you only got 2 minutes, it's a matter of time before you lose. If you're going to go 30 minutes, but I'm only going to go for 2 minutes, I'm eventually going to lose to you. The outlasting part, this game is so early right now. Everybody's picking their winners on who's this, who's that. We're going to find out for a long time who's going to end up. It's going to take another 10 or 20 years for us to really find out who the big winners are going to be. And so you have the outwork, out-improve, out-strategize, outlast. And at the end, the last currency you rely on is luck, not at the beginning. Luck is the last currency you rely on. I've been lucky many, many times. The other day, my son and I, it's late at night, I'm putting him down, and my middle son, Dylan, says, he says, hey, Daddy. I said, yeah. He says, I want you to have a middle name. I said, what do you mean? He says, I have a middle name. Tico has a middle name. Senna has a middle name. Brooklyn has a middle name. You don't have a middle name. I want you to have a middle name. I said, he says, you know what? If you were to have a middle name, what would the middle name be? I said, Lucky. He says, why? I said, I'm the luckiest man in the world. He said, Daddy, you're the luckiest man in the world. I said, I'm the luckiest man in the world. Tico, Daddy's the luckiest man in the world. Hey, Daddy, can I be lucky too? I said, of course you can be lucky. How can I be the luckiest man in the world? I said, here's how you become the luckiest man in the world. If you outwork your peers, if you out-improve your peers, if you out-strategize your peers, if you outlast your peers, you will eventually be the luckiest man in the world. Oh, I got it. I said, that's why Daddy's the luckiest man in the world. He goes to his mom and says, Mom, you know Daddy's middle name's going to be Lucky because he's the luckiest man. It was a classic moment. But yes, of course, luck is a part of it. And I don't want to say nobody, but it's not something to bank on to say, I want to be able to not work and make all the money in the world. It is not a proven formula.
I've been most lucky after several years of effort, after several years of experience in an area that I'd be excited about, after several years of education, sometimes trial and error. I find I get luckiest when I have great mentors. If I find great coaches, great teachers, anything new I want to learn, I literally think the shortcut in life, be resigned to do the hard work and get the best instruction possible. And if you had that combination, best instruction possible, world-class coaches, and be resigned to do the work. In my mind, that's really the shortcut. That I don't want any magic shortcuts, get rich quick nonsense, or get results quick. I'd like to have deep foundations, solid, firm foundations, and build on that. And I haven't found a better way to get consistent results. So anything new that I want to get good at, I just follow that formula. And I've talked to a lot of professional athletes and other business guys recently, and it's like a universal mantra that if you want to be a champion at something, you have to engage in champion-type behaviors for years before you become a champion in a sport. You don't get the belt or the ring or the title without putting in the work first. You have to live like a champion for years before you have a champion result. What are some of the key things in your development? You go from pretty rough background there, living in a camp, doing pretty well for yourself now. We're hanging out in your bank vault.
Yeah.
My name's Moneyberg. I don't have a bank vault yet.
You live in a nice penthouse, which if you've done it the right way, you've earned it. So, yeah, I mean, right after Germany, we came here November 28, 1990 to the States. I went to LA. Right after high school, I had a 1.8 GPA. I joined the Army right after high school. I was in the Army for a few years, Hummer mechanic, wanted to be a bodybuilder. I got out of the military. I said, I'm going to be the next, Middle Eastern Arnold. I'm going to marry Kennedy. I'm going to be a governor one day. I'm going to go into movies, et cetera, et cetera. I went to Mr. Olympia. I realized I'm definitely not going to be competing for Mr. Olympia. My height, 6'4.5", 6'5", is not the prime height for Mr. Olympia. You need to be more 5'8" to 5'10". That's the right height. So I left bodybuilding. I went into gym sales. Then I started working on Morgan Stanley Dean Witter day before 9/11. Got my Series 7, 66, 31, 26 Life and Health. I said, this is what I'm going to do. Next day, 9/11 hits. Everybody in our building is running out because it's Morgan Stanley, and World Trade Center was Morgan Stanley's headquarters, 3,600 employees. Came out, our manager, Dave Kirby, said, guys, if you decide to leave the industry, this is probably a good time to leave because it's going to be hard the next 2 years. I ended up leaving Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. A few months later, I went to Trans. I was at Transamerica for a few years. Great experience. And at the end, 7.5 years later, left, started my own insurance company out of LA. We grew it from 66 agents. Today, we've licensed over 30,000 people nationwide. We got 150 offices nationwide. So that's what I do. One of the companies I run, insurance. I'm the CEO and the founder of the company. Accidentally start a YouTube channel, turns into a media company, turns into whatever it is today with a few billion online views. And, we decide now to turn that into a media company competing in a marketplace with certain strategies that we have in place. That's kind of how it happened for me. And throughout the way, a couple other things I dabbled in. I'm a baseball card guy. I like high-end collectible cars, made a few investments. That's worked out for me. But that's kind of how it happened.
Easy.
Yeah, no, not easy, but it's kind of how it happened. Believe me, we were talking the other day with a group of people. I said, I probably went 80 hours a week, every week for a good 20 years, and I enjoy it. Like, I enjoy the game. I mean, it's absolutely a high. I'm not a drug guy. I will drink an old-fashioned once a week and won't even finish the glass. I have a ton of wine in my house that I don't drink because I'm not a wine guy. But I just love the game. I mean, I love the game of business. I can't wait to play it every single day. It's like a video game to me. It's one of those things. And I watched my kid the other day. He gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning to finish his book because the kids are every day, if they want anything from daddy, they have to read 20 pages every day. You don't read 20 pages, you don't get what you want. So everything starts with you having to earn it through the books. Son wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, does his book, reads it on Sunday, and then he's sitting there. He knows after he reads, he can play video games on the weekends only, and it's for a couple hours. I said, what are you doing? Daddy, I got everything done. I wrote this report, I read this, I did this, I did this, because here's what I'm doing. When you get to a point where you find a game, like something that pays you, that's almost like a game to you, when you get to a point to do that, you enjoy it, you're good at it, you're great at it, you're obsessed about it, you're all of a sudden going to find yourself in a position where you may not believe where you're at that moment. It's almost like things don't make sense. You wake up and you're like, I cannot believe I'm associating myself with this person. I'm living here, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. The power of being obsessed instead of interested. Most of the world is just interested. Very few are obsessed. Those that are obsessed, we read about, we write about, we make movies about, we criticize. Those that are obsessed have haters. Those who are obsessed are the ones that create enemies. Those that are obsessed are the ones that piss people off. Those that are interested and are critics, they're in the outside of the arena. The people that are in the arena are the ones that are getting all the heat, but those are the ones we like to read about, write about, and watch movies about.
A critic is a critic because they have no talent. If they were good at something, they'd be doing it.
I think there comes a moment in your life that you no longer believe that your dreams can become a reality, and you become bitter and you throw in the towel. When you do that, you subscribe to the mindset of being a critic. I think the world is trying to recruit you. Everything is about recruiting. Everyone's trying to recruit you in your way of thinking, okay? One community is trying to recruit you in a way of thinking to say, you can do anything you want to do, minus if you can't jump 46 inches, you can't be LeBron James. But you can pretty much do most things in life. If you give your best to it, you can have your dreams become a reality, right? That's one community. And you're sitting here like, is he really true? He's full of shit. You think I can do something? Do you know what family I come from? Do you know who my mom and dad were? You know how poor I was? Do you think I can become somebody? Yes. You're full of shit. You're just telling me that because you want me to buy something from you. I don't believe you, right? Then there's another community that says it's not fair what they did to you. Not at all. Did you hear what that person said? That's disrespecting you. Look, people like you and I, you know where we grew up. We're not supposed to do anything special with our lives. We're just regular people. So somebody listens to that and says, you know what, he's right. We are regular people. We're not, and you know, all these rich people, they have their thumbs on us. That's exactly what it is. So some people are being recruited and they don't even know. Who you recruit to is what leads you to being a critic. It's what leads to being an interested person. Is what leads you to being an obsessed person. I think critics are very talented. They just recruited, they got recruited to the wrong political party. And I'm not talking politics, meaning Democrat or Republican. They just got recruited into the wrong way of thinking. And that waste 10, 20 years of your life like this. I went to a concert one time with a guy named Dariush, famous Iranian singer, chose one day to stop doing drugs. He always said he didn't do drugs, but he was a big guy that was doing drugs. One day he said, you know, I have a drug problem. And he went from having 50,000 followers on Facebook to 4 or 5 million. Persian, I mean, you know what the niche is. It's a very small niche. He blows up, right? I go to his concert. I lost my voice for 6 months. My brother-in-law, Siamak Sabatimani, took me to this place. And he gets up and he's performing. He says, let me tell you guys a couple of my regrets. He says, number one, I regret that you didn't invite me to all your weddings. He says, let me tell you why I feel bad. Because I always wrote and sang depressing song. You loved it, but it wasn't like uplifting dancing. He says, sometimes I wish I would have made more music about dancing because I wish you guys would have invited me to your weddings. None of you guys did. Who wants to play my music at weddings? He's just being very open about it, right? And he says, but I'd like to talk to the younger audience here. And raise your hand if you're under 30 years old. And you know, people put their hands up. He says, I'm now 60-some years old, okay? I'm no longer young. He says, if there's anything I can tell the younger audience, here's the following. Make sure the young wolf in you takes care of the old wolf you'll one day be. He says, know that the 70-year-old version of you is counting on you to not fool around. Know that the 7-year-old version of you is counting on you to be serious today. Don't screw this thing up. You're never going to have the kind of energy you got today. You're never going to be as intense as you are today. You're never going to have the kind of ability to work 16, 18 hours a day. Don't screw up this energy, because one day you'll be 70 and you're going to look back and say, shit, I wish I would have given my best. So again, I think it's parties that are trying to recruit you to different mindset, to be a critic, to be an interested person or an obsessed. Just make sure the right party recruits you.
I had an idea in my head in my late teens that I thought, you know, I think a person could make a decision. You could recruit yourself to go work, you know, whatever it takes, you know, 80 hours, 100 hours a week. You did that for 10, 15 years on your own terms. If you're building something with that obsessed idea that you mentioned, which I've lived my life that way. I haven't taken, I don't know when, it's more than a decade since I took a day off. And on my 40th birthday, maybe I worked 6 hours on my way to Niagara Falls to go visit for the day, you know. But you can't, a person who has that strength in their heart or, you know, in their mind that like, you know, no, I have to go do something, go be somebody. If you did that for 10, 15 years and really gave yourself to it, you do whatever you want for the rest of your life. You do whatever you want for the rest of your life. Most people, if you had a halfway decent plan and an execution on that level. And there's another subset of people that they want to chill. They're not, you know, the story you told is like, they're not taking care of their future self. They're really disrespecting their future self, that there's a cognitive dissonance. They don't know that they're gonna be that 70-year-old guy, and they're not thinking about what sort of lifestyle they'd like to have throughout those years, you know? So I think that obsession that is a key thing, that you have to do something that, you know, if your competition finds it to be work, you have to do something that might be work to them, but you kind of like it, or you find a way to like it. You might not like what you're doing every moment. There's, you know, thousands of times in my life that I wake up and say, oh, I don't feel like it. Then I remind myself, well, the success gods don't give a shit what I feel like today. But I did have a plan and a goal, so I have to wake up and go execute that plan to make sure that I achieve that goal, you know? So I think that's, it's a path that I have found to work quite well. But it's hard to work 100 hours forever to get consistent results if you hate what you're doing. Somebody else is going to be able to outwork you. So I think that's a useful thought that you're sharing, that you have to have a passion and obsession. Most people misuse those words. They say, you know, oh, I have to love every minute of it. No, it might suck for an extended period of time. But if you were able to overcome that, psychologically, internally, you have a lot of freedom in your life later. And there's a point you mentioned a few minutes ago that if a person's willing to make those investments, some people call that a sacrifice. I don't think it's a sacrifice. I think you're investing in your future. If a person's willing to make those investments, you have a lot of freedom. You'll find your place. You'll find yourself in places that you never would have imagined that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later, you'll be around people. You'll have opportunities that the earlier version of oneself couldn't dream of. If I was 20 and I was offered 15% of my current circumstances, I would have signed that contract. It would have seemed like a fantastic deal. And I think I did very well. I think I'm going to do a lot better. I have the right social trajectory. I have the right education. I have the right social, financial resources, etc. I think I'm going to do extraordinarily well. But I wish I dreamed bigger even earlier. You have some thoughts about that? What your life experience? You had some pretty grandiose dreams in your head early on. I did too, but I could have done even better.
I agree. I think it goes back to the story of that singer. Make sure the young wolf in you takes care of the old wolf you'll one day be. Don't waste that energy. It's a question we'll all have to answer one day when we look back. You'll be at a Thanksgiving dinner, and you're sitting at the head. Your 75-year-old grandpa or grandma, and your kids and grandkids are running around, and no one's asking any questions, just kind of leaving you alone. And you're sitting there saying, man, when I was 32 years old at one time, I should have given my best, but I was so scared, and I didn't. What a waste of the last 43 years, whatever it is. Nobody will know the answer to that question except for one person, and that's you'll take it to your grave with you because you knew you could have given your best. It's not an easy thing to live with. The other day, I'm sitting with the kids. We go out to dinner, and I asked the kids, I said, so guys, what is the hardest thing in life? What's the toughest thing in life? So oldest says, going to the moon. I said, okay, let's just say that's pretty tough. Yeah, it's pretty hard. What's the hardest thing in life? Building a spaceship. Okay. What else do you think is the hardest thing? Wrestling a lion and beating it. Okay, all these weird things these kids are saying because that's what kids do, right? I said the hardest thing in life is to one day look back knowing if you would have given your best, you would have made such a big impact and you would have been one of the best to do it in whatever space you went into, but you didn't. It's the hardest thing to live by. Hardest thing. You can't live with that. It's going to be so difficult. And so most people experience the hardest thing in life because most people are not going to give their best. Most people are going to kick back, cruise control, bullshit, things like that. So he's like, so Daddy, if that's the hardest thing in life, what should we do? I said, you should give your best now so you never have to face the hardest thing in life because that's what most people are going to face. Oh, got it. Okay, so here's you know what I'm going to do, Daddy? What are you going to do, Daddy? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make sure I make movies that everyone's going to watch these movies. And if they don't, guess what? I'm going to make it better and I'm going to make you better. Oh, and Mommy, guess what? What? I'm going to give you guys a discount when you guys want to come and watch the movie. So we can't even watch a movie for free. No, but I'll give you guys a discount. Maybe free. I don't know, but maybe a discount. Like that whole imagination of already going there, seeing the movie being made. That imagination of going there and seeing what happens if I give my best. It's a scary thought if you don't give your best. I don't want to live that life.
I don't either. The concept of luck came up earlier.
Yep.
And I don't want to get lucky with my investments. I want to do good analysis. Mm-hmm. I want to understand the things that I'm investing in. I want to understand under what circumstances they're going to do well or they're going to do poorly. And I want to have a good broad-based understanding of how does the economy work? Mm-hmm. How do the crazy humans that are participating in the economy, how are they thinking? How can I best communicate with the crazy humans in the economy? And I think if I understood those three things, if you understood, economics/finance, how does an economy work? How are the humans thinking? How can I better communicate with them? You can have just about anything you want in life. You're not going to get lucky, but I think I've become a lifetime student to those three topics that when younger people ask me or older people that are maybe haven't achieved their full potential, they'd like my help. When they ask me, what should I focus on? What should I do? So there's no permutation of reality that you'd be learning more about any of those topics to be, a better business person, a better psychologist, or a better communicator. There's no permutation of reality in the future that you would hate the outcome. You're definitely going to be better off. So I don't like to rely on luck. I like to rely on having proven systems, having a good knowledge base, and understanding how things are likely to behave in various circumstances in the economy. But how do you think about this?
So to me, luck is an interesting topic. So, one day I had one of my guys' ex-wife. Him and his wife came to my office, and we started talking about politics. And she says, let me tell you, capitalists, all they care about is money. They're such greedy people. That's the biggest problem we have in America today. I said, okay, cool. I said, can I ask you a question? She said, yes. I said, what was your favorite subject in high school? What were you good at? And she said, art, journalism, and English. I said, okay. How good were you at chemistry, physics, or math? Oh, I hated those subjects. Got it. I said, what I'm starting to come to a conclusion with is the fact that if you understand math, capitalism can be explained. But I wanted to know, are some of us born in a way that nothing's ever going to change? So, for example, politics. Somebody votes Democrat, somebody votes Republican. I want to know what caused you to vote this way, right? So let me kind of unpack that for you. So one, we vote the way we do because of, one, family, how we were raised, okay? You'll typically see whatever the religion of an individual is, 90% of the time their parents had that religion. If you're Catholic, your mom and dad were Catholic. If you're Christian, LDS. So that lineage. Very rarely does somebody break up, off and say, I don't want to be a Christian, I'm going to go be a Muslim. That just rarely happens, right? So we vote based on our family lineage. We vote based on career. If you're military, you'll typically vote right. If you're education, you'll typically vote left. If you're, somebody that runs a small business, you'll typically vote right. If you're somebody that works nursing, maybe you'll vote left, right? So career, so you got family, you got career, you got somebody that became a influencer in your life, a coach, a teacher, a pastor, a professor, somebody that took a liking into you, that liked you a lot. You needed somebody to believe in you. And whatever that person's political beliefs were has been passed down to you. So you're kind of like, my professor at UC Berkeley changed my life. Oh, really? Okay, boom. My professor at USC changed my life. Oh, really? Okay, boom. My professor from Thomas Sowell Hoover Institute changed my life. Oh, really? Boom, right? So we got family, we got career, we got an individual, and a life-changing event. Meaning, God forbid you have guns in your house. You're pro-Second Amendment, you're part of the NRA, you've been for a while. One day, your 3-year-old niece finds one of the guns, shoots herself, kills herself. Tragic story. That family doesn't want to even talk about guns anymore. That family may say nobody needs to have guns in their house, right? Now try debating that person. If you try to convince them otherwise, you're trying to tell them their 3-year-old niece's life doesn't matter. There's no reason to debate that individual, right? Okay, so we got 4 reasons why somebody becomes who they become. Perfect, let's set that part aside. So then you look at political on how people vote. You got 47% of voters that are going to vote Democrat no matter what you say. 46% to 47%. You got 44%. No matter what you say, they're voting Republican. You got a couple percent in the middle that are going to vote Libertarian or Green or anything, no matter what. So you really only have 10 to 12%. So America is really ran by 10 to 12% of people is what it's ran by, right? It's not ran by everybody. Every election is determined by that 10 or 12% independent that says, you know what? I'm kind of done with Trump. To be honest with you, I don't want any more riots. I don't want any more of this BS. Every day it's a fight. Everything is a fight. Let's just bring somebody that I don't have to worry about. Here's Biden. You know what? I'm done with Biden. Let's bring somebody else. But believe it or not, we keep going back and forth. If you think about it, Reagan, Bush Sr., Clinton, Obama. Clinton, came Bush Jr., Obama. Obama, Trump, Biden. Do you see how this thing works out? It goes every 8 years we change our minds. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't. So the independents run the world. So where am I going with this? Here's where I'm going with this. There are certain people that are going to be in the middle, the 12% of people that are open to being convinced. There's 12% of people in the world that are sitting there saying, if you make a good argument on me going out there being a business owner, working my ass off and not relying on luck, I'm in. You can convert me. I think there's a community of people, no matter what you say, they're not going to do anything. There's just nothing you can tell them. We can bring every greatest brain, Munger, Buffett, Musk, Bezos, put them all in front of them. Everything makes sense. They're still going to be the same person, okay? Then there's going to be a group of people that have bought into that mindset. They're all in. It's really the 12% of people that are in the middle saying, make me believe why I shouldn't just try to take the shortcut. Make me believe why I should buy into this. Whoever makes the best argument, that community in the middle says, you know what? I'm not going to make luck my number one currency. I'm going to make luck my number 5 currency. I'm going to go do my part. And if I get lucky, it's like dessert. Check, I'll take it. But I'm not relying on dessert being my first option. Start off with water, then you go to salad, then you go to appetizer, then you go to main course, then you go to dessert. Most people want dessert to be the first thing. And they make the fifth course the first course, and that's problematic. And there's 12% of the population, I believe, that's willing to be convinced otherwise.
No, it makes sense. I think in loose terms, and I think you articulated that well. But in loose terms, 90% people, they don't really have an ambition to do much. They're gonna follow the entrenchments of their culture, subcultures, etc. In a very similar format as you described that. So
Who do you think is more competitive, complainers or doers?
Obviously.
Who do you think it is, though? Do you think doers are more competitive?
Hey, I bet in subcultures of losers when I was a kid, where they're complainers that love to complain and outdo each other all day. So people that are doing don't have time to complain. They got something to do.
What is the greatest invention ever for complainers? What is the greatest invention ever for complainers?
I'm curious your thoughts.
Social media. Prior to social media, nobody heard complainers. Social media is the first time ever where complainers got a mic. It became equal opportunity. And complainers are way more competitive in the area of complaining than doers are. Doers don't want to compete with a complainer in the area of complaining.
Yeah, they got things to do.
They got things to do, but complainers are sitting there saying, oh yeah, I'm going to spend 6 hours a day bitching about you. And then there's people that sit there and say, oh my gosh, did you hear what that guy said about that guy? Well, I didn't hear him say anything, so he must be right. So complainers are extremely, extremely competitive in the area of complaining. That's what they do all day long. Unfortunately, what they don't realize is if you just channel that competing ability that you have in the area of complaining, in doing, you'd be one of the best in your industry, whatever that industry was. They just chose to compete in the wrong area.
These people on the internet, they're hating like this. You call it a complainer, I'll call it a hater. There's a lot of haters. And the number one thing they hate is themselves. The number one person they're mad at in the world is them. And a lot of what they're saying about someone else or something else is a projection of their own inadequacies or their own frustration that they didn't have the effort. I'll concede, and I've been thinking about it in the back of my head. Are there some talented critics? Yeah, there might be. I think that you made a point about that. But what the hell are they doing with it?
Exactly.
What the hell are they doing with it? If your talent is being spent on a creative hating, so you could do something with your life. For less effort, you could be much happier. But they don't have the oomph to go do that. They don't have the oomph of, when they don't feel motivated, probably why they're on that same social media, when they don't feel motivated, they don't have the discipline to push through. I don't give a shit what mood I'm in. You don't give a shit what kind of mood you're in. If you set a goal, you're the type of guy that's going to go accomplish your goal. You don't have to wake up in the right mood. You might have a little tummy ache. You're probably going to show up and do it anyway. I don't care about my excuses. I care about my goals more than my excuses.
Yeah, but I come from a state of mind of I am looking to talk to people who can be converted into finding out their best. Yeah. My entire MO in my life is the fact that I believe people can change. Doesn't mean it's 100% of the time, but I come from a place of thoughts, a place of, I think Johnny can change. I think he can change. I think you're one decision away from changing your life. I think you're one decision. Now, does that mean everyone's going to do it? No, it's a small percentage of 10% people that are willing to have the courage, the ability, and the willingness to reason to sit there and say, you're right, I'm willing to change. Let's go light it up. Great. But that's not everybody. Most people are so scared of change. It's not even funny.
I'll leave them to themselves, and the people that I tend to focus on or communicate with is that 10, 12% that they're open-minded about a better way. They had a philosophy of, if they knew better, they'd do better. They want to learn more so they can earn more. They're interested in investing in their future and having a better life. So that was a path that I took. I'm certain it's a path that you took. And I know that it's a path that anybody else that's serious out there that wants to invest in a brighter future for themselves, that is willing to work through tougher times to find better ways and brighter days, they could have that. It's available to a lot more people that we're talking about than 10 or 12%. But 80-something, 90%, they're never going to do the work. And you can't be invested in, you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. I learned that early in life, and it's been a valuable lesson to me.
Tough to move somebody that's not inspired and doesn't want to.
I appreciate you sharing some time.
Anytime. Appreciate you. Thank you. This was great.
Thank you for inviting me in your vault.
Yes. You're the first person that's done an interview out of here outside of the podcast.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
Good job.
very cool.
Thank you.
I was living on my coach's living room on a mattress. I ended up just bouncing at a bar. I'd been a cop. I quit my job. And
Derek Moneyberg presents 10 Commandments of Wealth.
took the gamble on myself to become a successful professional fighter and make it to the UFC or Pride and at the time. And
Am I making a sacrifice right now, or am I just investing in a better future? So it's easier for me to make those decisions when I think about it as like, oh,
yeah, absolutely. And now that you mention it, having to actually really process and think about it, I think that word sacrifice is kind of like, I believe it's the word that the ones at the top kind of use to make everyone else feel better about it. Because when you're at the top, now you realize that was an investment.
Was everything just golden and easy and handed to you, or do you have a little struggle yourself along the way?
No. Yeah, in 2013 and 2015, I was living out of my car, full time, and I was too proud to ask for help. Like, how ridiculous is that? You're living out of your car and you think you know it all. And 2015, that's when I kind of I knew that I didn't know it all. So why not find experts in that and really shortcut that? I thought I was going to just chip away. I thought I was just going to read books till I was an expert. I never really talked to anyone that actually did it.
It's been about a week since I've joined the 10 Commandments of Wealth program, and there's so many interviews that are offered in this program. I'm inside the Derek Moneyberg 10 Commandments of Wealth program. This is an awesome program that you're gonna love. I'm gonna use the principles and the knowledge from this program to help me boost my leads in my marketing firm. Buy this program, it's a wonderful investment for your future. You won't regret it, and you'll absolutely love it.